Amazing transformation. 5 minutes after a flight attendant's shocking act, 3 airports exposed. Anna's world shattered during the turbulence of Flight 202 when a frantic father, eyes wide with desperation, turned to her. His daughter lay sick, and he was powerless, unable to afford the medical treatment she so desperately needed. The airplane buzzed with the hum of indifferent travelers, one wealthy businessman buried in his phone, oblivious to the emotional chaos unfolding in the cabin. Anna's heart raced. She was just a flight attendant, a mother working tirelessly to scrape by for her own 2 children. Yet, in this moment, the weight of her insignificance felt suffocating. Every day, Anna donned her crisp navy blue uniform, painted on her customary smile, and fought the relentless tide of being invisible. Each departure brought the daunting struggle of balancing work and home, her mind often occupied with thoughts of overdue bills and grocery lists. Those thoughts suffocated her whenever she stood amidst the bustling crowds, yearning for recognition beyond her role. Now, faced with this father's raw plea, an internal battle raged. She could remain seated, just another face among the passengers, or she could risk everything, including the fragile financial stability she built for her children. "Excuse me," she whispered to a nearby coworker, glancing back at the father. But her colleague barely acknowledged her, too consumed by the demands of the job. Fear tightened in Anna's chest. This was a moral dilemma that transcended her everyday worries. What if she acted? Would she face repercussions? All the while, her love for her children wove through her mind, a steadfast reminder of what she stood to lose if she chose courage over silence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously. It makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The moment trampled the silent chaos of her mind. A monumental clash between fear and moral obligation surged to the surface. Anna's breath quickened as adrenaline flooded her veins. She had always valued compassion, believed in family above all. But who knew how many times she'd swallowed her own voice, stifled her thoughts in an attempt to remain compliant. Her gaze fell upon the man whose world was unraveling, the helplessness etched on his face. How could she do nothing? The pressure swelled, a force threatening to drown her in uncertainty, yet also ignited an ember of determination. As she stood there, a hurricane of conflicting emotions, Anna made her choice. She would not let her spirit succumb to the shadows of her uniform or the expectations of indifferent bystanders. Taking a deep breath, she moved toward the man, her heart thundering, pushing aside the knot of dread as she opened her mouth to speak, ready to challenge the suffocating silence of her workplace. Little did she know, her singular act of bravery would soon spiral into a firestorm. What lay ahead was a confrontation with the very heart of an industry that had long overlooked the struggles of its own, but how many allies would stand with her when the storm broke? The stakes had never felt higher. The clock was ticking, and the world was watching. The moment Anna stepped closer to the distraught father, her world tilted, drawing her toward an unforeseen precipice. She felt her legs shake, a mixture of resolve and trepidation surging through her veins, but there was no turning back. She found her voice, shaky yet propelled by an urgency she had never anticipated. "Sir, is your daughter okay?" He turned to her, words spilling out in disjointed gasps. "She's sick, and I can't. I just need help." His anguish penetrated through layers of her own uncertainty, grounding her in the reality that her insignificance could no longer define her actions. In that instant, something stirred within Anna, a long-dormant sense of agency. "What do you need?" she asked, the words tasting foreign yet liberating. Her instincts kicked in, cradling the flickering flame of courage as she sought to refocus the chaos around her. The black and blue world of her uniform began to fade into the background, and for the first time, She was no longer just an object of compliance. She was an active participant in the human experience. Acting quickly, she reached for the intercom, her eyes catching a glimpse of the passengers now paying attention. Momentary silence fell, the hum of indifference dissipating. Deep within, fear still gripped her heart, but she pushed through, grasping a flicker of something larger than herself. "Attention, is there a doctor on board? We have a medical emergency." As her words reverberated through the cabin, Anna saw heads turn, murmurs of concern replacing the hum of disinterest. For the first time, her presence mattered, and in that brief moment, possibility emerged like a phoenix in the chaos. The adrenaline spiked. Was she really initiating change by this simple act? Slowly, people began to respond. A woman shifted her gaze, another passenger stood with purpose, and amidst the pressure, Anna caught a glimpse of her own strengths, not just the duties dictated by her job, but the strength of her voice echoing against the tumult of uncertainty. Yet, as she awaited a response, doubt crept back in. Had this truly been the right move? Would she face backlash from her employer for stepping out of her defined role? The thought of reprimand chilled her, siphoning away the steady breath she had managed to find. But the father's desperate eyes anchored her resolve. Within moments, a doctor emerged, hastily making their way toward the child, and Anna felt the wave of relief wash over her. She had taken a risk, yet now she stood at the precipice of potential transformation, both for herself and the man whose world had teetered on the brink. But what was this act of courage leading to? As the doctor assessed the situation, Anna hung back, absorbing every detail. Her heart raced not just with fear but with exhilaration, a sensation she hadn't indulged in years, a taste of empowerment. Suddenly, she envisioned the way this moment could ripple through her career, urging her to redefine herself beyond the confines of her job title. What if she could transform her experiences into a call for necessary change within the airline? The realization settled heavily, both thrilling and terrifying. She could rally for a training program on emergency compassion for flight attendants, addressing not just the logistics of care, but the very ethos of their roles in turmoil. But how would the higher-ups receive her ideas? The time had come to face the unknown consequences of her actions. A voice whispered within her. Would she have the courage to move beyond a single act of bravery into a new realm of influence? Her heart raced as she realized a new chapter was dawning, one that could mean breaking tradition or forging a path unseen. Would she summon the bravery to continue this quest for change, stepping away from safety and into the storm of resistance? The stakes had never been higher. As Anna stepped back from the scene, the weight of her recent decision began to settle uncomfortably on her shoulders. The battered father's grip on his child's hand, mixed with the assurance now radiating from the doctor, momentarily buoyed her spirits. Yet beneath the surface, seething doubts dragged her thoughts back down. Was she prepared for the whirlwind of repercussions her actions might unleash? With every heartbeat, a different possibility emerged. What if her superiors deemed her actions reckless? The nagging thought of future reprimands gnawed at her as the atmosphere around her shifted. Her uniform, once a symbol of compliance, now felt like a heavy cloak of expectation. Hadn't her training strictly emphasized the importance of protocol? She had stepped beyond that line, and while she felt a surge of pride, she was not naive enough to think there wouldn't be consequences. In the back of her mind, the haunting question lingered. What if she lost her job? What if this fleeting moment of valor splintered her career into nothing more than a fractured memory? Yet intertwined with fear was a burgeoning sense of purpose, igniting her desire to transcend the limitations she had accepted for far too long. Her breathing steadied as she reminded herself of the lives that could benefit from change. She had witnessed the difference that a single act of courage could make. As the doctor stepped away, the child stabilized. A momentary cheer erupted among the onlookers. Anna's heart swelled with pride, not just because of the successful rescue, but because she had initiated it. The passengers who had once sat idle, swaddled in their own apathy, were now interconnected in this moment. A ripple began to undulate, expanding her vision of what could be. But could she cultivate that ripple into a wave? A training program focused on emotional intelligence, emergency preparedness, and compassionate care began to take shape in her mind. Anna envisioned a program that empowered flight attendants to act, not merely follow orders. It was a leap forward for the airline industry. It could transform her life and the lives of countless others. However, the practicalities loomed large. Who would listen? How would she present this idea to entrenched leadership marred by rigid policies? The staircase leading to the cockpit seemed to feel higher than ever, the weight of potential rejection looming above her like a dark cloud. Yet every time she hesitated, the memory of that father's plea echoed in her mind, a reminder of the fundamental reason she had taken the plunge. Anna could feel the flame of determination growing against the backdrop of her fears. It was no longer just about her. It was about creating a new narrative for her team, perhaps the industry itself. For the first time in a long while, she began to strategize, crafting a clear plan of approach. Meticulous notes sketched themselves in her mind as she envisioned each conversation. All right, what's the first step? She whispered to herself. Surrounding her, the turbulence from before had fallen silent, leaving shards of calm in its wake. No longer did she feel paralyzed by doubt. She felt the need to advocate for change, knowing the challenges that lay ahead. Fueled by the exhilarating rush of empowerment, Anna took a deep breath, realizing that each action taken from her newfound resolve had the potential to forge connections amongst her peers. Hierarchy notwithstanding, she braced herself to bring her proposal to the forefront. A sudden shift swept through her thoughts, a fresh realization that was unsettling yet exciting. What if she discovered that the push for change faced resistance, not just from her supervisors but from the very coworkers who could benefit from it? The unknown variables began swirling, but the thought only intensified her determination to explore this path. Could she convince them that they were more than cogwheels in a vast machine? Could she lead them toward a transformational journey, inviting them to share in the possibility of making a real difference? In that moment, Anna understood she was teetering on the edge of something greater. Change was not merely a ripple, it was a storm waiting to break. Would she have the strength to navigate the conflicts ahead and harness her passion into a force for profound transformation? The next morning dawned brighter than Anna had anticipated, though the weight of her new mission still settled heavily on her shoulders. She stood before the bathroom mirror, examining herself with wary eyes. Was she ready to confront not just the leadership, but also her skeptical colleagues? The question echoed like a hollow drum in her heart. With each brushstroke of her mascara, she recalled the faces of the passengers she had once thought of as nameless. The child in crisis, the father's gratitude, and the unshakable bond forged in that brief moment, all reminders of the potential she had unlocked within herself. But potential alone would not be enough if it didn't translate into action. Crowds filed through the airport terminal, their energies swirling, indifferent to her internal tumult. Anna slipped on her uniform, straightening the collar with resolve. Today, she wouldn't just wear a badge of duty. She would embody change. Yet as she approached the crew briefing room, dread coiled in her stomach with every step. It was one thing to aspire for change. It was another to initiate it. Inside, a group of her fellow flight attendants were engaged in light banter, oblivious to the undercurrents of anxiety flowing through Anna's mind. She situated herself in her usual spot, but the vibrant atmosphere felt like a distant hum. While they cracked jokes, Anna's pulse quickened, recalling the tired dynamics of complacency that had stifled so many. As the head supervisor began the briefing, Anna forced herself to focus, but the hesitance gnawed at her. After the formalities, could she muster the courage to voice the thoughts brewing inside her? Each announcement about schedules, safety protocols, and compliance felt like an obstacle rather than a stepping stone. The time for her to interject was approaching, yet she still questioned her ability to navigate this delicate landscape. When the briefing wrapped up, she felt her heart race as she stood to speak. It was now or never. "Everyone," she called, her voice cutting through the noise, drawing a few surprised glances. "I'd like to share an idea that's been on my mind." A handful of heads turned toward her, and she could feel the weight of their scrutiny, like a leaden cloak. I believe we could enhance our emergency training to include emotional intelligence and compassionate care. After what happened yesterday, I think there is an opportunity for us to do more. The silence that followed was heavy with uncertainty. A few colleagues exchanged raised eyebrows, while others looked genuinely intrigued. Yet, within the silence, doubt crept in. What if they dismissed her idea outright? What if, worse, they rejected her in favor of the established routine? Anna pushed forward, words tumbling from her mouth like water from a burst dam. She spoke of the transformation she had witnessed and the profound impact emotional connection could have in crises. With each point she made, she could see a handful of her co-workers slowly leaning in, listening intently. Perhaps some were even beginning to visualize the potential she was articulating. But just as she began to feel a glimmer of hope, a voice broke through the gathering energy. "Who do you think you are, Anna?" It was Jake, a veteran flight attendant known for his no-nonsense attitude. "Don't you think we're already trained to handle emergencies? This sounds like a waste of our time." The laughter that followed from some members of the crew took the air from Anna's lungs. She fought the wave of embarrassment, searching for a counter to Jake's dismissive tone. The irony was palpable. He was right in a way, yet their training had missed something vital. In that moment of conflict, she found resolve. "I feel we can be more than just first responders. We can be pillars of comfort too. Please, consider what we experienced yesterday and the way we can support both our passengers and each other." As the room hung in a fragile silence, Anna realized she had done something far more significant than merely present an idea. She had opened a dialogue, a debate that could ignite the change she so fervently sought. But as she watched Jake's stubbornness wash over the group, a new realization dawned on her. Could she really change their perspective, or would she find herself battling the system from within? The buzz of anxiety, mixed with anticipation, clung to the air. It was clear, this journey toward transformation would not be simple, and Anna braced herself for the escalating tensions that lay ahead. Would she summon the strength to challenge the doubts of those closest to her, or would she watch her aspirations falter amidst the skepticism of her peers? In the wake of the awkward silence, Anna shifted her weight from one foot to the other, feeling the palpable tension in the room. Jake's question hung like a storm cloud as laughter faded, leaving some crew members with expressions of amusement, others uncertain. Anna's heart thundered, but the fire within her refused to extinguish. This was not the moment to falter. It was the moment to dig deeper. "Let us redefine what it means to serve," Anna implored, trying to connect with them beyond the dismissive atmosphere. "We are trained in protocols, yes, but those skills can become second nature. Adding a layer of empathy can enhance our responses and elevate the service we provide." The earnestness in her tone began making tentative inroads. She noticed a few nods from her colleagues, signs of contemplation amidst the skepticism. In that fraught exchange, Anna realized that to cultivate compassion, she would first need to foster support among her peers. Her strategy shifted. Rather than seeking their agreement outright, she aimed to ignite curiosity and foster informed discussions rooted in their shared experiences. A spark of momentum swelled. "Imagine if we could train together, share our stories of handling emergencies, and then learn how emotional intelligence plays into it," she continued, eyes shifting from one colleague to another, looking for a connection. "It doesn't undermine our existing skills, it complements them." Despite occasional scoffs, mainly from Jake, some co-workers were leaning forward, and Anna felt a rush of hope. She meticulously engineered her message, transforming her view of attack into an invitation for collaboration. This wasn't just about a proposal. It was about enlisting comrades in this journey together, redefining their mission. As the meeting continued, Anna felt the loneness dissipate, even as she braced herself for pushback. Sensing that Jake would not let this rest, she prepared for his inevitable counterattack. "What you're suggesting sounds nice, but it's not practical," he blurted, his voice strained with skepticism. "You want us to focus on feelings in a crisis? We need to be clear-headed." In that moment, Anna felt the coalescing energy reappear, somewhat invigorating. "Jake, I get it. I really do. But right now, when passengers are in distress, they don't only need clear-headed responses. Sometimes they need someone to listen, to reassure them. We have a chance to be a calming presence amidst chaos. It was a calculated risk, deliberately steering their dialogue into personal realms that could resonate with anyone who ever felt vulnerability. A murmur rolled through the room. A few colleagues whispered and nodded, having come to recognize the necessity of a holistic approach to their roles. Anna's heart raced, and as glances shifted towards each other, the tension began to morph away from animosity into collective inquiry. Jake's frown deepened, though he was losing ground. Still, he wasn't finished yet. So what? An emotional crutch? We can't afford to get sentimental in emergencies. If that's all we have to offer, then we risk becoming irrelevant. Anna shot back, her resolve hardening. We are not just service providers. We're the ones who can make or break a travel experience. It's time we embrace our humanity, not bury it. The room fell silent again, contemplation framing their expressions. Anna sensed something different. It was as if a collective hesitation was slowly shifting towards an awakening. She held that moment in her grasp, knowing that the ground beneath her feet might finally be fertile for change. Yet, the question remained, how could she sustain this momentum in a culture resistant to shift? As she prepared to close the discussion, loaded with possibility but brimming with uncertainty, she realized her most significant challenge lay ahead. With a final, steady voice, Anna posed a question that would linger in the air long after the meeting concluded. Who are we willing to become together? Fate hung in the balance as she wrestled with aspirations that could either bloom into reality or wither away under doubt. Captivated by the trajectory ahead and the divergence of her career path, Anna's next steps loomed large, unknown yet thrilling. Could she nurture the seeds of change, or would the walls of resistance close in, leaving her alone to weather the storm? The next morning, Anna entered the break room with a quiet determination. The coffee machine sputtered in the corner, an odd comfort against the anxiety swirling inside her. Yesterday's meeting echoed in her mind, nervous glances, smirks, reluctant nods, a blend of apprehension and curiosity. Today, she needed to build on that fragile foundation. Instead of pouring her usual cup of coffee, Anna grabbed a bowl of oatmeal, a small effort to nourish herself physically as she prepared for the day ahead. Her actions mirrored her inner resolve. Every small choice contributed to the person she aimed to become, someone who could inspire change. As she sat down to eat, she overheard snippets of conversation. Jake was clearly vocal about her proposal, attempting to rally some of their crew around the idea of sticking to rigid protocols rather than opening their hearts to an unpredictable environment. His dismissive tone ignited a fire in Anna's gut. While she had expected he would oppose her ideas, hearing him articulate his stance fueled her motivation. Anna had a decision to make. She could let his negativity sidetrack her, or she could devise a plan to reinforce her position. The latter felt more compelling. She would demonstrate the value of empathy not through words alone but by crafting small experiences that proven her theory in action. With each bite of her oatmeal, Anna formulated a plan. What if she initiated constructive dialogues during layovers? Perhaps she could organize informal brainstorming sessions where crew members could share their personal encounters with passengers and the emotional impact those stories had. During training meetings, she would frame scenarios that included emotional challenges, focusing on passenger well-being as much as service efficiency. As she finished her meal, Anna resolved to approach her team individually rather than attempting a full group discussion each time. Connecting one-on-one would allow her to build trust and might quell resistance from those who feared group scrutiny. That approach shifted her perspective from contention to collaboration. Later, as the crew gathered for the morning briefing, she was determined to make a change, however slight. Can we take a moment today to share a quick story about a passenger experience that moved us? She suggested lightly, glancing around the room. She noticed Jake lift an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face, yet a few others leaned in slightly, curiosity piqued. When it came to Jake's turn, Anna watched for his reaction. He spoke of a challenging flight where passenger complaints overwhelmed him, punctuating his account with a cynical twist. The emotional vulnerability that Anna sought to cultivate was met with a defense. We're professionals, trained to uphold standards. Sentiments don't belong here. Anna took a deep breath, heart thudding. Jake's dismissal could derail her entire effort, pushing back against vulnerability at every corner. Instead of battling it out with an argument, she waited, considering her words carefully, calculating her next move. "I appreciate your perspective, Jake," she replied, steady. "But isn't it our responsibility to balance our professionalism with humanity? What if we could create a stronger connection and improve how we respond? Those moments of stress are our greatest opportunities, what do you think?" Anna felt the air shift, as if her invitation cracked the veneer of Jake's determination. A flicker of uncertainty appeared in his eyes, almost imperceptible, like a lone star fighting against the brightness of day. The dialogue continued, and snippets of laughter and thoughtful exchanges filled the break room. As the crew began to engage freely, Anna felt her resolve grow. Maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to chip away at the walls she faced. Yet, the faint echo of Jake's voice lingered like a shadow, reminding her that this journey toward empathy and connection was fraught with challenges. What would she do if the very foundation of their service culture was challenged? How would she maintain momentum if pushback continued to rise? Her aspirations hung in the balance, and with every passing day, Anna was caught between the thrill of possibility and the specter of dissent. The question loomed larger: would she be able to unify her team in this fight to embrace humanity, or would they reach a breaking point that tilted her journey into chaos? The sun poured through the rectangular windows of the break room, illuminating Anna's continued resolve. She couldn't shake the feeling that her cautious steps towards change required bolder moves. The laughter of her colleagues still echoed in her ears, mingled with Jake's skepticism, and it propelled her toward deeper self-reflection. Each story shared had revealed the emotional tapestry woven into their daily interactions, and now they had to keep that dialogue alive not just for one meeting, but consistently. Throughout the day, Anna felt a palpable shift. The small interchanges of stories she had encouraged began to create a ripple effect. A flight attendant, Sam, took the initiative to share a touching encounter with a passenger who had lost a loved one. His vulnerability opened a doorway into deeper discussions, and Anna couldn't help but smile as her colleagues began to see the power of their shared experiences. Lunch breaks became an informal workshop, where stories flourished and empathy seeped into every corner of their conversations. Each narrative hunched over sorrow transformed into a lesson on human connection, highlighting how their roles transcended mere service. Yet, somewhere beneath the surface, she sensed that Jake was watching closely, arms crossed, waiting for an opening to challenge this unfamiliar approach. The evening layover was a test. As the crew gathered in the terminal, the energy shifted. Anna could see the pilot, John, engulfing the atmosphere with positive impatience. He sought to foster camaraderie, but Jake was already there, arms folded tightly across his chest, ready with pointed remarks. Anna wrestled with herself, battling against the notion of direct confrontation that could undercut her momentum. "Let us hear from Anna today," John suggested innocently, pricking Jake's defenses further. Anna felt cold sweat gather at her brow, but instead of retreating, she took a deep breath, leaning into the vulnerability she sought to promote. "Actually, let us flip it. Can we share a moment where we felt like we truly connected with a passenger?" she offered, hoping to reinforce her initiative. She could feel Jake visualize his retort, his mind racing at how to undermine her approach. "Empathy is nice and all, but do you really think it helps us in practical terms? As professionals, we need to maintain a level of detachment to perform our duties efficiently," he countered, the smirk playing on his lips. It was a direct attack, and the room fell silent, hanging on the tension between them. Anna's heart pounded fiercely. Instead of retreating, she saw clarity amidst the fog of discomfort. "Detachment is understandable, Jake. But can we be professionals without being people? Perhaps our efficiency can thrive on empathetic engagement," she challenged softly yet firmly, her words crystallizing the intentions behind her mission. Jake's eyes flickered, but then he steadied himself, ready for a counter-argument. Yet something shifted in the room. The silence became restless as other crew members weighed in, sharing their agreements and personal sentiments. Anna observed their faces, some genuinely illuminated with understanding while others mirrored Jake's skepticism. Hours slipped by in a vibrant back and forth, turning arguments into dialogues. The shared stories unfolded like petals, revealing complexities and nuances that they hadn't previously explored together. But as the night deepened, so did the weight of Jake's presence. He still hovered, a stalwart reminder of the resistance she had to navigate. Watching him closely, Anna identified the challenge. No matter how many hearts she reached, Jake could never truly act as an ally if left unchallenged. The echo of unresolved tension hung in the air, leaving her no choice but to face the reality that Jake was more than just a naysayer, he was a catalyst for her growth. Harnessing her courage, she reflected on the deep-seated need not just for unity, but for confrontation. Anna knew what had to happen next. It was time for a direct confrontation, but she had to approach it wisely. How could she transform this interpersonal friction into an opportunity for mutual growth? What if, instead of opposing him, she created a situation where he would have to confront his own beliefs while supporting her cause? The idea simmered, promising a change. The moment was approaching, one that could tilt their dynamics entirely. Anna braced herself, eager to discover the unfolding potential of her journey. Would she have the strength to engage Jake directly, or would this long-standing pushback evolve into a turning point for the entire team? The next day arrived with a blend of determination and trepidation for Anna. She arrived at the airport earlier than usual, the atmosphere buzzing with the frenetic energy of travelers and your typical pre-flight activity. Yet, her mind was focused solely on a singular mission: to confront Jake, to push the boundaries of their dynamic and perhaps reshape it into something more constructive. As she walked towards the briefing room, Anna's pulse quickened. The stakes felt higher than ever. Today, she planned to integrate her personal initiative into an on-the-job scenario, one that would allow Jake to witness the benefits of empathetic connection firsthand. She recognized that sidestepping conflict would no longer serve her or her colleagues. Only through direct engagement could she truly challenge the status quo. The briefing began, filled with routine announcements and expected protocols. Anna took mental notes, zoning in and out as she formulated her strategy. When it came time for the daily discussions about passenger care, she raised her hand. "Can we try something different today?" she proposed, her voice unwavering despite the flutter of nerves within her stomach. "How about we share an experience about a passenger interaction that turned a tough situation into something positive?" Jake leaned back, clearly amused. "And what if we run out of time? Shouldn't we focus on the essentials of service instead of story time?" His tone dripped with sarcasm, yet Anna maintained her composure. "Actually, by sharing these moments, we can highlight specific behaviors and responses that make a difference. It's all part of refining our service skills, isn't it?" Anna countered, meeting his gaze directly. The room grew quiet, and a few crew members nodded in agreement. She sensed a shift, a crack in Jake's armor. It was as though the others were beginning to understand the significance of what she was proposing. Their gazes flitted between Jake's skepticism and Anna's resolve. "Let us give it a shot," John interjected, smiling supportively. "Take 5 minutes. This could be enlightening." Anna felt the initial thrill of victory wash over her. She had nudged the inertia, but the true test was yet to come. As crew members began to share small stories, the atmosphere transformed. Laughter followed a tale of a lost child, the relief experienced when passengers helped each other, and an elderly traveler who shared wisdom about the city they were flying into. Yet, Jake remained stoic. His reluctance loomed large, a haunting shadow that threatened to overshadow their progress. As the group engaged, she spotted him glancing around, bracing for an opportunity to undermine the unfolding camaraderie. "Okay, my turn," he said finally, injecting himself back into the conversation. "So, are we really suggesting that a few stories are going to magically improve our performance? Because I can tell you that a flight could go south quickly if we're focused more on sharing anecdotes than on, flying the plane." Anna's heart sank momentarily, but she quickly regained her composure. Jake, could sharing these experiences actually enhance our responsiveness? Last night, we spoke about anxious passengers and crisis management. Wouldn't an empathy-driven approach help us navigate those complexities more effectively? Realizing this was a pivotal moment, she carefully orchestrated her words, attempting to draw him into a realization. Imagine making a decision in a high-stress scenario. Wouldn't an understanding of human emotions give us a competitive edge? The room echoed in a fleeting tension, all eyes now on Jake, who seemed momentarily caught off guard. Anna held her breath. She had initiated a confrontation, but she needed to allow space for realization to take root. She watched, waiting patiently as Jake wrestled with her proposition, the classic furrowed brow indicating internal debate. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was creating an opening beyond mere skepticism. But before she could celebrate the moment, the session concluded, and they soon filtered towards their assigned tasks. Anna's heart hammered not from anxiety, but anticipation. Had she planted the seeds of change? Would her approach ultimately lead to a shift in his perspective? Reflecting on the progression of their interactions, Anna realized she needed to formulate a strategic follow-up, perhaps to challenge Jake with a structured scenario that directly partnered him with empathy-driven principles. The direction of her efforts required careful planning to navigate through confrontation and collaboration. As she prepared for the flights of the day, one thought settled in her mind like a glimmering ember. If she could just demonstrate the tangible benefits of her approach, might he finally give into transformation? Would today mark a significant turning point in their evolving dynamic? Anna stepped onto the tarmac, adrenaline surging as she thought about the task ahead, ready to see if her efforts ignited genuine change or merely continued the cycle of conflict. What awaited her next would surely define not only her professional growth, but also the power dynamics within her team. The bustling airport hummed around Anna as she gathered her thoughts during the pre-flight check. Each moment felt heavy with potential. She had set the stage for change, but now it was time to follow through. Jake's skepticism still lingered in her mind, but today presented an opportunity to solidify her ideas, to prove that not only could empathy enhance their service, it could also redefine their team dynamics. As she reviewed the flight manifest, an idea sparked. What if she could set up a role-playing exercise during the upcoming flight that would put her theories to the test? Engaging Jake directly while demonstrating how empathy could be applied in real-time scenarios might just provide the evidence he needed. It was risky. This would require a deft balancing act of assertiveness and tact, but Anna was ready. Once on the plane, she approached John, her steadfast ally. "I want to try something a bit bold on our flight," she began, her voice low but earnest. "What if we conduct a mini role-play for the crew? Some passengers might come with varying levels of anxiety, and I want to show Jake how we can address those emotions head-on." John raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet wary. "Okay, but remember, if Jake pushes back, he could undermine the whole thing in front of the passengers." "Then let us do it in a way that highlights the benefits. Let's put him in the role of a passenger for one part," Anna suggested, her determination sharpening her focus. She sensed the thrill in John's compliance. He was on board, excited to collaborate on what could be a pivotal moment for Anna's vision. As they prepared for the boarding process, Anna glanced at Jake, who was meticulously checking equipment, his focus intense and his demeanor unchanged. For a moment, a wave of self-doubt washed over her, but she grounded herself. This was her moment to prove her mettle. The flight started smoothly, with crew members falling into rhythm. Anna, standing at the back, observed as Jake engaged with passengers, but remained defaulted to a no-nonsense approach. Recognizing the moment had arrived, she initiated the exercise that John had agreed to. "All right, team, can we gather for a second?" Anna called out, her heart racing. Seeing the hesitant responses, she pressed on. "We're presenting a scenario for our next hour, a challenging traveler who is mildly annoyed. Let us see how we can transform that interaction." Jake scoffed lightly, but stood at attention. "This isn't improv theater, Anna. Let's focus on real situations." "Exactly," she replied, now filled with resolve. "And how we respond in these moments dictates our performance as a team. Let us actually see if there's a difference in our confidence levels when we approach with empathy rather than authority. She initiated the role play, and to her surprise, Jake agreed to participate, albeit begrudgingly. With a mock boarding, Anna played the role of the anxious passenger. As she muttered frustrations, Jake, adopting the persona of a concerned crew member, attempted to counter her complaints with factual explanations. We're following standard procedures, and I assure you everything will be fine, he said flatly. Anna pushed further, channeling real anxiety. I just don't understand why we're delayed. It's before she could finish. Jake's tone shifted. What specifically are you worried about? There was an underlying urgency in his voice that hinted at a glimmer of change. In that moment, Anna noticed the entire crew lean closer, their eyes on Jake, as curiosity lit their faces he was engaging. She switched tactics and added, I just want to make sure I get to my connection.
It really means a lot to me.
This time, her plea echoed with genuine emotion. The crew, including Jake, seemed to be responding to her cues. The simulation started to take on a life of its own, evolving from a scripted encounter into something raw and unexpected. Anna sensed a newfound intensity in the dynamic. With each line, she observed Jake navigate the emotional terrain. The shift wasn't obvious, but she noticed how he began to soften his responses, tracking the nuances of her anxiety. Their colleagues watched intently, many previously skeptical now mirroring Jake's perceptiveness. As the exercise concluded, Anna felt an electrifying surge. Perhaps today wouldn't just be a test of her vision. It could very well lead to a turning point not only for her and Jake, but for the entire crew dynamic. But was this breakthrough only temporary? Would the facade of focus and authority, which had held sway over Jake's approach, last once they returned to their normal routines? Amidst the flickering hope, she couldn't shake a lingering anxiety. Tomorrow could either solidify this transformation or threaten to reverse it entirely. The thought gnawed at her, leaving her with a profound sense of purpose mixed with uncertainty. Would the breakthrough last, or would the safety of his generalizations hold Jake back? The next challenge loomed before her, each heartbeat echoing her resolve as she pondered what steps she must take next to keep the momentum alive. The true confrontation loomed just ahead, and Anna could sense the urgency building within her. In the days that followed, Anna felt an undeniable shift within herself and among her colleagues. The delicate dance of confrontation had blossomed into a genuine dialogue, transcending the superficiality of crew dynamics. No longer merely evoking uncertainty, Anna's role-play initiative had sparked something deeper, a collective yearning for recognition and growth. Empowered, she took it upon herself to further solidify this new foundation. The month rolled on, marked by Anna's ongoing conversations with her colleagues, each one building on the last. Her emotional intelligence initiative began to take root. She organized lunchtime discussions focused on emotional resilience, fostering a safe space for her teammates to share experiences. Each narrative exchange became a building block, reinforcing the notion that understanding passengers' states of mind was as vital as following protocol. Meanwhile, she meticulously documented these conversations, collecting data on experiences and emotions shared. Each session was a leap beyond her fears. The tangible change she sought was materializing in ways she had only imagined. One afternoon, as she pored over her notes in the break room, Jake entered, a furrowed brow signaling his approach.
Can we talk?
There was a gravity to his request, and her heartbeat quickened. She nodded, inviting him to join her at the table. With an unusual hesitance, Jake began, I've been thinking about what you said during that role play. His admission hung in the air. You made a valid point about how much emotional engagement influences our work. I can't help but feel I've been missing something. A rush of exhilaration surged through Anna. His words marked a significant change, a willingness to confront his own blind spots. I know it's a shift from the usual, but the connection with our passengers can drive real change. Their stress often mirrors our own, and how we engage with them can either solve or exacerbate their issues. With newfound confidence surging through her, Anna elaborated on the core of her initiative: the studies supporting emotional intelligence positively influencing team performance and passenger experience. She witnessed intrigue building in Jake's eyes, and a flicker of understanding passed between them. This wasn't just about feeling, it was about proven efficacy. By the week's end, Anna received an email inviting her to present her proposal to airline executives. The moment marked a culmination of her myriad experiences, struggles, and victories. She had searched for purpose, faced resistance, and transformed it into a platform for collective growth. Now, the opportunity to crystallize her ideas into a formal initiative ignited an immense sense of purpose. The day of her presentation arrived, charged with the intensity of the moment. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as she faced a panel of high-ranking executives. Heart-pounding, Anna opened with a story that illustrated her journey, her personal experiences as both a mother and an empathetic flight attendant. She painted a vivid picture of real human connections forged in fleeting moments amid turmoil, threading in data on improved passenger satisfaction correlating to emotional intelligence training. She saw nods of recognition and glimpses of understanding bloom on their faces. As she articulated the proposed training programs rooted in empathy and crisis management, the potential for systemic change emerged within that room, a ripple effect widening into the company's ethos. Upon concluding, Anna stood quietly, waiting for feedback, a nervous tension binding her. "I see the value in this," the lead executive remarked, a hint of awe in their voice. "It's time our team evolves beyond just following procedures. We need to embrace the human element in our service." Relief cascaded through Anna, a storm that had built within her for so long finally receding. She had navigated adversities through perseverance and genuine leadership, transforming both herself and her role in the airline industry. It wasn't just the approval of her proposal that solidified her transformation. It was the realization of her innate strength, her ability to challenge the norms and promote a cultural shift among colleagues. Anna stood before them not merely as a flight attendant, but as a catalyst for change, equipped with compassion, knowledge, and a transformative vision. As the executive team deliberated on actionable steps forward, a wave of pride washed over Anna. She wasn't adhering to the confines of her previous role, she was reshaping it entirely. Today wasn't just a new beginning, it marked the achievement of a long-sought dream woven through experiences anew. The culmination of her journey brought with it not just acknowledgement, but newfound confidence, her presence unyielding in the face of complacency. The seasoned resistance had become an empowered mission, and for the first time, Anna felt entirely alive in her purpose. This was her moment. She had conquered doubt and transformed it into triumph, a recognition that wouldn't stop at her personal growth, but would echo through the lives of countless passengers and colleagues. Realization dawned. She had completed her journey not merely for herself, but for everyone who shared a piece of her story, all shaped by the strength of human connection. Now is the time for you to support more empowering transformations. Subscribe immediately to the channel to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that could inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and elevate these empowering narratives. Share your thoughts and theories about this ending in the comments below, and don't hesitate for even 1 second to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey of personal triumph and growth.